What's going on, guys? Today I'm going to talk about manifesting, aka reality creation. Give you kind of a bird's eye view. So I've created my own definition of what manifesting is, and that is the transfiguration of awareness, where the self ceases to demand proof from appearances and it abides in its own certainty. So, what is self? Who are you? Who am I? What determines our state of consciousness? That is determined by a number of factors, mainly beliefs, assumptions, emotionally charged thoughts, attention, focus, and emotional conviction. All of these create your state of being, otherwise known as your frequency. So how does this manifest? Well, to start, reality, what we see in reality is 0.0035%, which is nothing. And when you look at it like you're wearing a pair of goggles, VR goggles. So you put on a headset, shout out to Donald Hoffman. And even if you look at it from an evolutionary standpoint or an adaptation, survival is not dependent on the truth. Survival is dependent upon fitness, upon your ability to adapt to your environment. So what if you are shown an illusion to increase odds of survival, which is exactly what's happening? When they asked Donald Hoffman, what is the percentage or probability that we're seeing reality accurately, he replied or responded 0%. So that means everything you're seeing is an illusion, which falls perfectly in line with quantum and manifestation. What you are seeing out here is merely a projection of what's going on the inside. This is just an illusion. We think it's real, and we think things are happening to us, but it's really coding that is designed to mirror who we are being. And so I know you're thinking, yeah, but I didn't manifest everything. But you did. It doesn't have to be specific. A lot of it, and most of it, is generalized to who we are being, the state of consciousness that we occupy. And so it may show up in a number of ways to reflect that area or specific topic in our state of consciousness. So when we look at it, you want to look at it from a viewpoint of what is this reflecting me? What helps the most, and what I found, is our ability to not react. Our ability to be the observer. When we can do that, we are telling the universe who we are. Our reactions will immediately tell you what's going on inside of you within. When we're triggered, I don't look at it as a bad thing. I look at it as an opportunity to release old assumptions and beliefs and to be the version I desire to be. An example of that would be, let's say something happens outside that's unideal. Well, the moment you are triggered, why am I triggered? What is it that I desire to feel? What did that make me feel? Release that feeling and give yourself the desired feeling. Why do I say give it to yourself? Because you are the operant power. You are the only one who can ever give yourself any feeling. And in reality, you are the only one who can give yourself anything by who you're being. And so if you experience an unideal situation, you're triggered. Maybe it made you upset. Maybe you felt disrespected. Maybe you felt not good enough. Whatever it may be, you go back to the truth. Don't get triggered by the situation. You can't control your first thought, but you can control the second, third, and so on. So immediately, become the awareness. Don't run on autopilot. Whenever you run on autopilot, you're allowing the subconscious to make decisions and determine your outcome. That might not be a bad thing if you've gone through and reprogrammed your beliefs and assumptions, your identity, what you focus on. But in the beginning, it's vitally important to be conscious of what you're thinking, to be conscious of what's triggering you, so we can replace and release those thoughts. The more conscious you can be, the more you can release and reframe the assumptions and beliefs, the more in alignment you will be with your subconscious. And now your subconscious, that is now aligned with your conscious state, now you're manifesting on autopilot. So when we look at this, how do we deal with the thoughts? The constant, never-ending, intrusive ideas that come into our mind. The first thing that always helps for me is to become aware in that situation, to become present. There are numerous ways you can do that. You can do that by grounding. You can do that by breath work, which is my favorite. Or you can do it by orienting. All of these bring you back to presence, bring you back to your present state. In that moment, you now focus on the sensation, whether it's, since you could wiggle your fingers and feel the sensation in your hands, wiggle your toes, feel the weight of your body sitting in the chair, or the weight of your feet when you go for a walk. As you do this, you're now focused on the present moment, and the thoughts have slowed down and your mind is getting quiet. The next step is you can either remain in presence or reframe the triggers. You can do this by affirmations. Affirmations are awesome if you're reminding yourself who you are. You're remembering that I am. Your I amness is all that ever is, was, and ever will be. So the words that come after I am are always vitally important, dramatically important to remember that those words that follow are going to create the reality around you. Because that is you embodying that state of consciousness. So I am. When you do the affirmations, I am worthy of love. It is safe and to be loved. It is secure to be loved. I am abundant. I can do anything. I am successful. Another great tip that I always like to throw in there, manifestations always come easy to me. The manifestations that I desire always happen rapidly. It is easy for me to manifest. Things like that start to change the beliefs and assumptions that we have about our capabilities and our ability to manifest. So what are the techniques that I've used and work for me? There's numerous manifestation techniques. I think the most important thing is to remember techniques are not a magic spell. They're not something we just say and all of a sudden it happens. Manifestation techniques are designed to get you or bring you into that state of being, into that state of consciousness. So whether we're doing affirmations or robotic affirming, scripting, visualizations, inner conversation, meditation, the goal or desire should be to feel that state now. because there only is ever right now. And as Neville said, whenever we bring up the old story or something from the past, all we are truly doing is reinfecting the present moment, because it doesn't exist. All that will ever exist is now. So you are either that person right now or you're not. So if you script out a scene, an imaginary moment, the moment you script it is no longer imaginary. You are feeling all the feelings as if it is happening to you now, which then reality in turn reflects who you're being. So if you script something out, I would go 6 months past the date. If you're starting your own business, imagining living in the house or getting back with your SP, what would it be like 6 months after that? If it's you starting your business, script out the day. How does your day start? And be very detailed all the way through to the end of the day. And when you're doing this, remember to feel, to imagine you in that moment and pay attention to who you are. Because all the things we desire are only symbols pointing us to who we desire to be. You know, whether you're with an SP, successful, you're truly desiring to be that version of you. A lot of times we think, if I was successful, if I had this, I would be, insert your adjective or emotion or feeling. If you were with SP, they make me feel a particular way. I am this way when I'm with SP. But in reality, you are giving it to yourself. You're giving yourself a permission slip in that moment to feel all of those things. They never did anything. The success never did anything. You were that way long before the success. And that's why you've heard so many successful entrepreneurs, businessmen talk about how it wasn't the money, it was who I became along the way that created that reality. Because who you became along the way was what was reflected back to you in the 3D. Now, when you're manifesting, I think the biggest attributes you can have to experience your desire in the 3D is one, persistence. Because there's years of programming. There's years of your mind wanting to go back. Even though it sucks, even though it feels shitty, your mind wants that because it's certain, and certainty provides a higher probability of survival. So your mind is going to try to go back that. And when I refer to the mind, I'm talking about the little I, or the ego. So the little I, or the ego, its main job is survival. So what is it going to do? It's going to constantly judge, protect, argue, defend, because being right means surviving. When you can get outside of the little I and become consciousness and become present and be your authentic self, your higher self, that's when you are in tune with God or the universe. That's when everything that you are by default, your true nature, love, peace, bliss, happiness, fulfillment, can just flow right through you. So when you're in those moments, let's just say you've scripted out something or you've done affirmations. Typically what happens is we want to run and check the 3D. But I don't see anything working. Nothing's changed. Well, then who are you? When I talk about awareness and what we hold in consciousness, what you hold in your conscious mind is who you are. We can't be aware of one thing and aware of something else. So if you are truly aware that you are that version, you have what you desire to have now, you are that way now, then you couldn't even be aware of it being another way. If you are in a loving relationship, if love is safe and secure, then you wouldn't be moved or triggered by the 3D, what the 3D is telling you. So next time when you wake up and you've done your affirmations, you've done your scripting, you don't need to check the 3D. The only sign you need ever is who you're being. When you can wake up and you feel amazing, you feel great about who you're being, that's it. Reality has no choice but to match your state of consciousness. The second thing I find, wondering if what you've done worked, wondering if you are doing it right. You are the operant power. When we look at what Neville talked about in the law of assumption, well, if you think you're doing it wrong or questioning whether you've done it right, then reality has no choice but to reflect a reality, a 3D circumstance where you're always left questioning whether you're doing it right. The moment you recognize who you truly are, you shift and you begin to trust yourself. You begin to know that who you are is what determines your reality. So I am loved. Because someone loves me outside doesn't make me love myself. I love myself because I am love. I love, and I can give love because I am that first. I get to experience success and money and a house and car because I am those things first. I am abundant. Money flows to me easily and effortlessly. So then in my 3D experience, I find that money or opportunities to experience money and abundance flow to me effortlessly. So when your mind and your ego start to question things, your ego, the little I, wants to see symbols because the ego is always looking for validation. But just like I described in my definition of manifesting earlier, the only validation needed is who you're being within. So when that happens, go within. I am in a loving relationship. It is this way now. I am treasured. I am cherished. I am adored. I am worthy of love. And then, if you don't feel it, and I talked about earlier the contributing factors to your frequency or state of consciousness, you want to catch the mood or the feeling. That always hardens into fact or hardens in our subconscious, our beliefs and assumptions. So one of the best techniques I ever used was, what would it feel like? What would it feel like to be in a loving relationship? And if you're scripting, what would it look like? And as you're scripting it out, feel the emotions. Be present in that moment. And as you're doing those techniques, you're living it right now. So that's who you're being. So there's nothing to check in the 3D because the 3D will always reflect that. It's building that trust within you. So as I mentioned, that requires discipline. Maybe you do everything right and you do feel it today. And then tomorrow you wake up and the first thing that happens when you open your eyes is all these intrusive thoughts. You get bombarded by negative affirmations to yourself. It's never going to happen. I'm not loved. They love someone else. They're with someone else. In that moment, become presence. Breath work works amazing. Inhale for 7 seconds, hold for 7 seconds, breathe out for 7 seconds. And as you do this, you'll find that the mind chatter quiets. And just sit in it. And as you sit in it, you are being present in the moment. You don't have the ego trying to tell you who you are. And once I feel at peace and I feel calm, then maybe I'll do some affirmations. Maybe I'll visualize. And I'll feel it in that moment. And then when I feel it, I'll go about living my day. If I was being the person who had what I desired, I would live my life. I would be who I authentically am. And I'm not all about that high vibe manifesting community where you have to be on top of the world, just elated 24/7. You're human. You're going to have human experiences. The difference is it doesn't move you. It doesn't shift your state of consciousness. Maybe I have a rough day. Maybe it's, I'm frustrated. I'm angry. I'm depressed. But it never moves what I know to be true. And that is I am. And that is who I am. Another thing that helps dramatically, listen to the space. Recognize the space in the room. Listen to the space in between my words. Whatever helps to bring you back conscious. Because the key on this manifesting journey, especially when it comes to reality creation and conscious creating, is the longer you can be conscious, your unconscious programming is not running. And it may happen, but that's where awareness, as our awareness expands, we are able to catch immediately if we get off track. And it's going to want to run back to the old programming. I know I was reading a book the other day, and it's a great book, Help in a Hurry by Dr. Kathleen Leaf. And she talks about how through her studies, they figured out that it isn't 21 days to create a habit. It's actually 63. So if you can break up the pattern within that time frame, you're not affirming or solidifying that habit. So you have the ability to reprogram yourself, to create new habits. So don't get frustrated. Do you want to have the life that you desire? Do you want to be who you truly are? Then persist. Yeah, there'll be difficult days. We've all had them. It's okay. Go right back to it. And as you progress, you're going to find that even preferences, desires fall away. Because you already are in alignment with who you truly desire to be. And as you're present, the state of flow is the new state you enter. As you can be in flow, you'll find that everything, thoughts, work productivity, actions you take, everything is more efficient and more effective. And we talk about flow a lot in our community that we have on school. But, when you think of flow, the mind ceases. As you get into a deeper state of flow, the mind ceases. You're not conditioning circumstances. You're not conditioning other people. You're not conditioning the way the 3D reality looks. You just are. You're just being. And it sounds to the mind like, wait a minute, so I'm just a walking zombie? That's what's going to get me what I want? But it's actually quite the opposite. You are your most prolific self when you're in flow. Because the mind chatter is what 99% of the time, that's what derails us from experiencing our desire. It's the ego trying to step in and tell us what we're not, why this is wrong, why this can't be done, what the problem is with this situation here, or the problem with our relationship. The only problem is the problem you're imagining. A problem can't exist on its own. If something needs to be taken care of, let's say you're in flow. If there's something that needs to be taken care of, you take care of it. What needs to be done? Okay, this does. The worry, the anxiety, the depression, the anger, the fear, none of those emotions ever help resolve a situation. That's just the ego and the mind chatter coming in to tell you what's just trying to argue and defend and analyze. Flow, or being present, is the absence of thought. It's the absence of judgment. And in those moments, you'll find that your authentic self, your higher self, knows exactly what to do. When I explain it to you, it sounds more like a concept. But I don't sit there and try to get into flow. You access flow by being present, by not trying, by just being. And that's when you enter the state of flow. It can be difficult at first. I know for me it was. Certain activities would get me into flow. If you're out, like for me, it was riding the motorcycle, going crazy. And whenever I did that, I found that the thoughts ceased. I wasn't worried about a situation. I wasn't worried about something that happened in the relationship. I wasn't worried about what needed to happen at work. It was just me in that moment. And for a long time, most of my life, I thought, activities like that, I always loved who I was in those moments. It was so peaceful. It was bliss. And I thought I had to do those activities to feel that. But what was truly happening is I was loving who I was being in those moments. It wasn't the activity itself. It was me. So then I made it my goal to learn how to access flow anytime throughout the day, no matter what I was doing. And so I started on that journey, and I started meditating and doing meditation. And I know a lot of people like guided meditations, and I probably started out with that like everybody in the beginning. But then I kind of just went to the frequency meditations you can find on YouTube. And I personally like 963 hertz or 528 hertz. And you can just type in 963 hertz meditation and it'll pop up. And I found that as I did the meditation, I would get into flow. And it took a little while, especially at first, because I would set aside 30 minutes or an hour, and instantly the egoic mind came in. I'd be sitting there 2 minutes. Oh, I don't have time. I need to do this. I need to run here and grab this. I need to clean. I need to do the laundry. Even though I'd already set aside time and I did have it, it's like, yeah, but the mind is trying to get control again. The egoic mind is trying to get control. So in that moment, allow it. Just observe your thoughts. Who you truly are is the observer. You're the awareness. You're observing your avatar or your body experiencing life in the 3D. So as you sit there through the meditation, you'll find that as you observe and you don't identify with it, there is no problem. Allow it. And you'll find that there are maybe 30 seconds, a minute, you don't have a thought. Or maybe it's in alignment with what you desire. And then you'll find 2 minutes and 3 minutes, and then 5 minutes. And as you enter that, the longer you go, the more you are in flow. And then you can, the most wild thing for me was being able to quiet the mind during the day. You're in a stressful situation. You can bring yourself back to presence through any of the techniques I mentioned and other various techniques. And now you quiet the mind, and the mind quiets, even in stressful situations. And that's probably the greatest gift of meditation. And then you'll find yourself being in flow without even trying. You no longer have to. You're just flowing throughout your day. And that's you being your authentic self. And your authentic self, by default, is love, happiness, peace, fulfillment, joy. And you'll find you're feeling all of these emotions. Just walking, going for a walk in the morning, walking the dog, going for a bike ride, sitting on the couch, making dinner. And you no longer have to try or force or effort. And I think that's one of the biggest misnomers or errors in manifesting is that we have to force our effort. I need to do more techniques. I need to do more affirmations. It's actually the opposite. It's the law of the reverse effect. It isn't by forcing that we get any of our desires. It isn't by efforting and doing more. It's actually doing less and more being. So focus on who you're being. Every day you get up, practice awareness. Be aware of the thoughts. You don't have to give them identification. They don't have to have meaning. When our thoughts come in, a thought isn't a problem. We don't have to identify with it. We have something around 45,000 thoughts a day. That isn't who we are. It's just the mind, something that came in. Maybe it comes from who, God knows where. That's not me. That's not the truth. Or you could say nothing and just observe it. Oh, that's interesting. Because the moment we identify with the thought, then we begin to give it meaning. And as we give it meaning, now we're feeling emotions. Now we're feeling those thoughts. And as we do that over and over, they become part of our assumptions and beliefs. And that ultimately dictates our state of consciousness or our frequency. So make sure, as you're on this journey, practice mindfulness, practice awareness, practice being conscious as much as you can throughout your day. And it's okay. It's okay if you slip up, get right back into it. You don't have to. The ego will always, it's so subtle, it will shift now from what it was saying before to now there's a problem. Oh, you're not doing it right. You're not doing it enough. Maybe this isn't for me. Maybe they manifested their desire. Maybe they manifested their SP. I can't do this. I don't know if it's for me. That's how the ego slides in. Just observe. And as you allow it, you'll find that it just melts away. All those thoughts dissipate. And now you're back to who you are. So remember, catch the feeling. What would it be like? That's a really easy one because there's no opposition. I'm not saying I have it. I'm not saying it is this way now, even though it is. It's a subtle trick around the ego. But I'm asking, what would it feel like? Who would I be? What would I be like? And catch that feeling. And then go back to your day and begin to live. You don't have to obsess over this. You've been manifesting your whole life. Manifesting is how reality works. It's not like, you learn this, oh, now I can manifest. No, you're consciously manifesting. You're manifesting your ideal 3D experience. Before, you were just manifesting the unideal experience. So, understand that you can't mess this up. Maybe you manifested something unideal. Perfect. That means you can fix it. So stay conscious, stay aware, and if a certain technique brings you that feeling, go with it. Trust that all your desires, all your manifestations come to you easily and effortlessly. And keep going. And as you progress through this journey, you're going to find that the number one thing you'll ever receive from this is freedom. When you're in flow, all the people I work with, I coach, people I observe, manifesting their desires, the first word out of their mouth is freedom. It almost doesn't even become about the object or the symbol any longer. They're free. For the first time in their life, they're getting to experience 3D reality in a whole new light. The anxiety begins to subside. The depression lifts. They're feeling joy for no reason at all. They're feeling bliss and happiness. And they're not having to do a thing. I can promise you, the more conscious and aware and present you can be, your life will begin to change. Thank you guys for checking in. Catch me on the next vid. Make sure to like and subscribe and hit the bell on the way out. Thank you, guys.